everyone, this is Sam from sugarspunrun.com, and today I want to show you how to make my favorite vanilla cake recipe. This is a really simple recipe for a classic soft vanilla cake. It's going to make a 2-layer cake. I'm going to use my KitchenAid stand mixer for this recipe, but you can certainly use an electric hand mixer as well. To begin, you're going to want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, we're going to combine a half cup of canola oil or vegetable oil, a half cup of unsalted butter that's been softened to room temperature, and 1.5 cups of white granulated sugar in the bowl of your stand mixer. Go ahead and beat these until they're well combined. Once your ingredients are well combined, you're going to add 4 eggs. I recommend adding these one at a time with the mixer running on low speed. For best results, your eggs should be at room temperature. Once the eggs are well combined, add a tablespoon of vanilla extract. Now we're going to prepare the dry ingredients. We want to whisk these together in a separate bowl. You're going to start with 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Add 1 tablespoon of baking powder and a half teaspoon of salt and stir until these are well combined. In addition to the dry ingredients, we're also going to add another 1¼ cup of buttermilk. As with the eggs and the buttermilk should be at room temperature. Having all of your ingredients at room temperature is going to give you the best cake possible. It helps your ingredients combine really well in a way that they wouldn't if some of your ingredients were cold and some of them were at room temperature. We're going to alternate by adding some of the flour mixture and then some of the buttermilk, stirring just until each is combined. I always like to stir the dry ingredients in by hand in order to avoid overmixing the batter. We'll start by adding some of our flour mixture to the wet batter. Go ahead and fold that in using a spatula until it is just combined. Once the flour mixture is well incorporated, go ahead and add a portion of your buttermilk. And then stir until that is combined. Repeat with your flour mixture, stirring until combined, and then you'll repeat with your buttermilk and then your flour mixture until all of the buttermilk and flour mixture have been combined into the batter. I usually begin and end with the flour mixture, adding the flour in about 4 parts and the buttermilk in about 3. Make sure to scrape the sides and the bottom of the bowl as you stir so that all of your ingredients are well incorporated. Now set your cake batter aside and prepare your baking pans. First, take a large piece of parchment paper and go ahead and fold it in half. Now place one of your tins over the parchment and trace around the bottom of the pan. Now you'll just cut along the line that you made. I like to cut just inside the line so you don't have to worry about any of your marker getting in the cake. Set these aside and we'll lightly grease and flour the sides of your cake pan. I just use a little bit of Crisco to grease the sides of the pan. And then add some flour and tap around the edges until they're lightly coated. Be sure to discard any excess flour. Now place your parchment paper liners in the bottom of each cake pan. This will ensure that the bottoms of your cakes won't stick and that they'll come out easily and clean each time. Go ahead and divide your batter evenly into each cake pan. Now, these are 8-inch cake pans. If you want to use 9-inch pans, you can, but make sure that they're deep enough to hold all your batter so that they won't overflow. Use your spatula to smooth out the surface of each cake And now you'll bake these on 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 to 35 minutes. You'll be able to tell that your cakes are finished baking when they lightly spring back to the touch, or when a toothpick inserted in the center comes out mostly clean or with a few moist crumbs. There should not be any wet batter on the toothpick. You're going to let your cake cool in its pan for about 10 minutes before inverting it into a cooling rack to cool completely. Thanks to the parchment paper, it should come out without a hitch, and then remove the parchment paper and make sure your cake cools completely before frosting it. Once your cakes have cooled completely, they should be easy to handle. Go ahead and pick them up and transfer them onto your serving platter. You can frost them with any frosting you'd like, but I'm going to use my favorite chocolate frosting. I recently shared the video on how to make this frosting, so be sure to check it out if you want to try it for yourself. And then top that with your other layer of cake and frost to cover completely. And don't forget to top your cake off with plenty of sprinkles. And that is how you make my favorite vanilla cake. As you can see, it's so simple to make. It is so soft and fluffy, and the chocolate frosting is just perfect on top. This cake is really good and delicious, and I think you guys are all going to love it just as much as I do. Look how light and fluffy that is. I hope you guys will try this recipe out and let me know what you think. I really hope you love it as much as I do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.